Hey everybody, my name is Dave Lotherington, and today I'm going to be channeling a looping being, at least that's my understanding. This is Ian Hicks. He's here to help me and ask any questions that need to be asked. It's my understanding that the looping are coming forward to give an introduction as to their species. They look something like this. They have a couple variants to how they look. Some have longer snouts, some have shorter snouts, some look like this, and panther on top of it, if you can imagine that. Kind of a hybridization of the two, of a wolf and a panther. So yeah, that's a quick intro. I'm going to get into the state of channeling, and that's going to take me a moment, and then I'll be right back. All right. Greetings, Ian.
Greetings. Thank you for coming through. And what is your name?
One moment, please. We are gathering our energies. Very well. We are here presenting to you your species and those who look to seek information on our kind. We cannot properly communicate as we speak improperly for the channel, but we would say that we are here. I am representing many of the LUPINE who are a presence in your atmosphere. Now, I am Yang-Shi. I represent many of my people and collective groups which are surrounding, we would say, your space area. Now, we should change our voice as this is disturbing the channel. Are there any questions?
First, can you just give us a general description of your species?
Yes, very well. We are quite tall in comparison to humans, approximately 6'2" to 6'7", respectively, and we operate. There are some of us who are taller, but primarily we operate within this range of height. Now, some species of lupine choose to transport themselves on 4 legs, we would say, but we are bipedal in nature, as in we walk with 2 feet.
And would we closely identify you what we here call wolves?
Yes, we are the predecessors of the wolf species on your planet. They have been seeded from our race, and we would say the evolution has been dialed back from ours.
In terms of your looks, what your characteristics of what you physically look like, I take it you have fur, and if so, what color, what are the color variances between your individual populations?
Yes. Not all of us have a full fur coat, as you humans have male pad and baldness amongst you. We have something similar to that in our collective society. We have some with the condition have patching of the fur, which does not appear around the neck area, nor on areas of the torso where there is lymphatic systems. Now, because of this this condition which exists within the lupine race, there are those who are somewhat unfurred, but primarily they are furred species.
Why is it some lupians walk on 4 legs and some walk on 2? Is that just a genetic difference?
Yes, there are differences in the skeletal structure of some species, and for this reason they communicate differently actually than we do, and also they move, they can run faster than we can, although we have more functionality with our hands than they do. But they can walk on 2 legs if they wish.
And do you operate as an integrated society working together? And are both of you comparable as far as your technology or level of intelligence or dexterity?
You are comparing the 2 races of lupine right now?
Yes.
Well, we work together as we are cousins or brothers, if you wish to look at them like that. We operate friendly as we have an alliance, and technologically we have the upper hand. They are, we do not want to say more primitive, but they have been more tribal for a longer period of time than we have.
But there's not currently conflict between you two. You operate in harmony.
No, that is not the case.
Okay. And where are you actually located? I mentioned that you were located around our space area. Are you on a specific planet, or are you also on ships around the atmosphere?
We are both. Now, myself, I am on a craft which is within your atmosphere. So there are many species who are not allowed within the atmosphere, but we are allowed, I specifically. There are specific individuals who can enter this sphere of humanity, and I am one, which is fortunate for me, as it enhances our communication and influence of different thought patterns and forms. Yes.
And can you describe your craft? Like, how big is it, and maybe how many individuals are on your craft?
Right now, my craft is not very large. It is approximately 34 feet in diameter and approximately 23 feet upwards.
And how many individuals can be on your craft at one time?
We are assuming that you are including sustainably rather than just at one time and just jam everybody aboard the craft.
That's correct.
We would say sustainably approximately 8 individuals who have sleeping quarters, who have food generation, and have oxygen absorption equivalents.
Okay, so you actually bring up a couple of more questions with that. So your oxygen is a key resource that you need to have. You breathe oxygen.
Yes.
What is your diet consist of?
Well, there are variances between different species, but primarily we consume flesh and also berries. We tend to stay away from greens. This is natural for our species. Many of us consume insectoids and different types of bugs and birds species.
So it sounds like it would be very similar to what the wolf species here on Earth eat. Would that be your correct way of looking at it?
Yes, this would not be too far from the truth. We are very natural species. We tend to interact homeostatically with our environment, so we do not require farming for the most part, as we are able to regulate ourselves within our system that we are involved in, so that we do not consume more than is required.
How much food or how long can you sustain your crew on your ship before you have to go back and resupply with food and other necessities?
Well, this depends on many variables, including the length of the trip and the duration. There are other factors, but like radiation of fields that can destroy fleshy tissues of meat and other substances that would be carried aboard our craft. But primarily, we have an ability to preserve our meats and preserve our fleshes, we would say, as if you do not want to think of an insect as meat, perhaps you would call it flesh instead. Now, we have replicating technology to be able to create food from organic material. But we prefer to have the fresh if possible, of course.
What type of government or governance do you have, or do you, what type of law and order is there, your system that governs your peoples or your civilizations, your colonies? Do you operate by a common set of rules?
We operate at a common set of rules, yes. We do not have politics as you humans do, but we have a hierarchical structure, which is broken down approximately into 3 tiers to simplify. Now, the top tier of our understanding is our government. These are the regulatory bodies for the individual families and packs that we have upon the planet. The second ring includes the hierarchy, the patriarchs and matriarchs of the family units. These individuals gather together this is not a word, to communicate with what you would see as the top of the pyramid of our government. and they pass the messages down, and they pass the messages down to their clan, which would be in the third tier. Now, the tertiary ring, or the third tier, would be the family members and those who are not in the upper ranks of society. Now, this is not to say that they are not giving or friendly or valuable members of society. It is merely to say that they are not alpha. They are betas and omegas, as you understand with wolves from your planet, and regular family systems such as protectors and guardians of the young. I hope this has explained your question.
Yes, and for the top tier within the hierarchy, since you don't have politics, are they born into that tier? And is it kind of like more of a monarchy type system? There's like royalty, and that royal family remains in the top tier, or is it something different?
Yes, this is true. There is an ancient lineage which we honor, as it is the royal born. Many who are born within this system have genetic traits which are altered to help them with this particular role. Some of them take roles as shaman, as you understand, and many of them are communicative with spirits and of the higher layers of experience, we would say.
Okay. How long has your species been in existence? Do you know? Like how many years, thousands of years?
Well, we have been around for many millions of years. We do not have an approximate date, as
Okay.
our knowledge only goes back so far.
Okay. And the reason I asked that question is because with the governmental or the societal hierarchy that you described, on Earth's history at least, it seems over time there would be people on the lower tiers. There would be disagreement with what's happening in the hierarchy within the royalty. Do you ever experience any discord between the general population and what's happening within the royal ranks of your species?
To answer your question, no. And here is why. There is some discord between the third tier and the second tier for reason of dominance. And there are those who wish to become alpha class. Without the alpha class, one cannot have the opportunity to communicate with the top tier. So it is required that they engage in battle or linguistics or whatever it is that they challenge them on in this particular field, that they must overcome them to be able to attain their alpha status. So to say very clearly, we would say the third tier does never interact with the top tier. It is only an interaction of the alphas that can communicate with the top.
So in line with, and I'm just going off of what we know about wolves and packs and the alphas, that pretty much what the alphas do, or whatever rule they impose, the rest of the pack automatically follows in line, because that's just simply the way of the hierarchy. That's the rule that's always governed you, and there's really no deviation of that, other than possibly someone wanting to fight to become an alpha.
Now, with your primitive wolf species upon your planet, there is variance, of course, as we are more advanced. But we would say that because the alphas are superior in every way, and it is due to selective breeding, it is due to not only aggression, and this is something that we want to say, because the lupine species upon your planet and the alpha is based upon strength, based upon cunning, and based upon aggression. Now, we have let go of the aggression as a trait, as a characteristic of the alpha, as we have found that over time, this has not been a positive trait to pass to those who are higher up and need to communicate with a peaceful mind when communicating with our kingship and queenship.
Are all of your alphas male, or is it a mixture of male and female?
There is a mixture of female and male.
From the pictures that I've seen and from talking to the channel, David, before we actually started this recording, he informed me, and you can confirm this, is your fur, the color of your fur, blue?
My fur is white, but there are actually it is a silveryish hue, and I do have blue undertones closer to the flesh, but it is silvery if you were to look at it with your eyes.
I understand that you are, or you consider yourselves to be a warrior species. Is that correct?
We were not always, but
Y-
in our beginnings we were not. One must understand that this was put upon us, and it is something that we have embraced over time. We must move the channel's body. One moment, please. Very well. Yes, we have not always been a warrior species. There are times when we were a very peaceful tribal species. Approximately 12,000 years ago, we were very shamanic, very much like your Native American species before the integration of the Caucasian to your people. Now, we worked synergistically with our environment. We have to move closer. And we were a peaceful race. Now, approximately 12,000 years ago, we had an encounter with a species which was probing into our atmosphere. And although we have advanced technologies, we did not want this species to be on our planet, as they were interested in resources and not the organic beings that were living upon the planet, which was us and our species which we coexist with. And understand that the wolf is the species of balance. It represents balance, and it brings balance to systems, to politics, to war. We bring balance, and this is the nature of us. But the species who we were encountering with, these reptilian draconian species, they were impinging themselves upon our planet, and they were taking species from the planet's surface, which was interfering with the balance of the planet. Now, they eventually became more and more aggressive until they were taking large crops of species from our planet. And that was the moment that we had to stop them. As we are in space age technology, we have capabilities of deflecting such species, but because of their aggression, we were initially defeated. One must understand, we were not a very aggressive species. We were peaceful, and we believe that everyone can coexist together. But because of this race, some seed grew within us, and it was a remembrance of what we were, what we truly are, and that is warriors, as not many species can go hand in hand and also have combat and war, as we prefer hand-to-hand combat rather than using energy-based weaponry with another species for thousands of years without losing or without winning. When a species is in this state of warring for a long period of time, it changes the way that the individuals on the planet interact and think and learn and develop. So it is important for us to let you know that we are warriors. This is our true nature now. And although we had many hundreds of thousands of years of peace, we are now warriors. Although we are not aggressive species, we can hold our own.
Okay, and that you alluded to part of my next question, which was, since you are consider yourselves warriors and you used to be, very peaceful until you were forced to defend yourselves and defend your resources on your planet, you've become physical warriors. You mentioned that you prefer hand-to-hand combat as opposed to energy technology for weaponry. Over those thousands of years of being a warrior, has that caused an evolutional change within your physical characteristics to be more warrior-like, or had you adapted physically to be warriors and be able to fight for yourselves?
We would not allow a war to change us truly as we are to a great capacity, as we understand that it is something that will happen and it will eventually end. So we would not completely change the direction of development of our species based off of one war. But we have evolved over thousands of years to become more bulky. We would say approximately 10 to 20% more muscle mass. Also, due to selective breeding, there has been an enhancement in reflexes over thousands of years.
You just mentioned with selective breeding. Do you partner, traditional male female as we do on Earth, or for let's say a long period of time, or is there an alpha male who controls several females, and that is basically your family?
Yes, the hierarchy is somewhat more complex than this three-tier system. We would say that those in the third tier have the opportunity to breed with alpha if they are of genetic stock that is appropriate to the culmination of what we are seeking as a collective. And there are alphas that breed with alphas, and there are not alphas that breed with a royal line. That line remains pure. And we have a population which can sustain the genetic variability so that it is not brothers mating with sisters and things of this nature.
Okay, but as far as pairing up, do you yourself have a mate that you share your life with?
No, I do not, because I am young and I am away working. But there are those who do mate for life. Now, primarily in the third tier, this is where the mating for life primarily occurs, due to some individuals are not able to make it to the quality of genetics that is required for our breeding system. These individuals would have pick life partners amongst those others who are not able to make the criterion of genetic breeding. So this would give them someone that they can love, we would say. It would create a fourth ring somewhat of individuals who are of low genetic line, but also are able to contribute to society.
So, breeding obviously it sounds like is a purposeful act. And you also said that you do have partners and some lifetime partners. Do you have sex for pleasure, or is it just strictly for breeding?
It is primarily for breeding, but there are
So,
times that others dabble in such things. Primarily, we are focused on other matters.
okay. So with a partnership with a mate, that's primarily for companionship.
Yes.
This is the first time I've heard of your species just before this call. So I'm not very familiar with you, and I understand that you wanted to speak to us on Earth as an introduction, if you will. What is it that you would like for us to know about the Lupians? And what is your intent behind coming forward today?
Well, we have been present for some time upon the planet. Although we have not shown ourselves to many of you, there are some of you who are aware of our presence. We have hidden amongst other species, Lyran, and also other, we would say, beastie creatures. Perhaps this is not the best terminology. Other animal based creatures. As we were not ready to yet come out, we have been observing humanity, and we had not been ready to say hello out in the open, as humans have certain conditions and appropriations that must be met in order to have communications with particular species of humans upon the planet and also resources.
From my understanding, there's an intergalactic council that meets, that represents various alien species and meets with governments around Earth. And there's negotiations that take place for first contact and the exchanges of technology, exchanges of resources from the Earth. Are the Lupians part of this intergalactic council that meets with the world's governments?
No, we are not. We do not intermingle with such things yet. We are here to say hello, that we are your friends, and we have been your friends for a very long time. Our species has been gifted to your planet as a peace offering many, many years ago. Now, we are here initially to create a ripple within your ocean of understanding of who it is that we are, what it is that we represent, and how we depict ourselves in communication.
You're fourth dimensional beings, is that correct?
Not all of us. Some of us are from third density, and others are of the sixth range.
So we move within the layers of 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. Is it correct that you're also able to, if you wanted to, physically be on the surface of the Earth and tolerate the Earth's atmosphere and live?
We do have some issues with breathing upon your surface. We naturally have a different composition on our planet, which makes breathing here difficult for us, but it is possible.
I'm going to go off topic a little bit here again, that your sun, the star that illuminates your planet, is blue. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And I find that interesting because our sun is, well, by nuclear fission would be white, or it shows to us as orange. And, rays are filtered through our atmosphere to give us different colors. Is the color blue of the star that illuminates your planet, is that due to a different composition of gases that causes that color?
Yes, it is. There are some gases that are not apparent within your periodic table that exist within our star. But we do have boron gas, and that is on your table. So, yes, to answer your question, there are elements that the humans have not cataloged yet.
And in terms of your planet, does it resemble Earth in any way, minus our structures? I mean, does, you have the trees and ocean and land and mountains, or is it a very different setting than ours?
It is a very wild place. We have less deserts than you, almost none. Primarily, the equatorial region of the planet is primarily tropical. And we understand that most of the equatorial region of your planet is somewhat dry, arid regions. So this is not the case on our planet because our sun is more distant from our planet than yours. So the radiation is not as extreme for our equatorial region, allowing us a fertile and fruitile, we would say, as it allows for the greater development of fruits and vegetables and things of this nature that can be used in forms of kibble. We are making a joke, but we would say there are forms of kibble that introduce vegetables into our dietary regimes that it is not dog food. But this is why we have made a joke. And perhaps we are not very funny to humans. This was funny to us. Yes, regarding the planet, our northern regions, northern and southern region, as you have your Antarctica and North and South Pole, we would say. We have a warmer climate. It is not ice. It is covered with a film of dust. And on both regions, both dusts are different, but they are crystalline structures, which limits our ability to move into these areas without devices of breathing.
And do you also have an ocean which creates atmosphere, which creates rain, which provides, what necessary, hydration to your plants?
Yes, most of the water on our planet is included within the crust of the planet, and not much of our water comes in ocean format, we would say. It is primarily through geysers and springs and things of this nature.
Okay, so it's more embedded in the planet itself as opposed to laying on top of the planet exposed.
Yes, more like your Mexico, where the water runs through tunnels rather than on the surface.
Okay, interesting. What is your goal in the future, to what you hope to be able to accomplish between the Lupians and humans? What is your actual goal that you would like to see achieve in the future?
We would like to have trade. We would like to have friendship. We would like to have comrades. The universe is a great, large place, and there are many aggressive species in it. We understand that humans are also have warrior-like tendencies, as do we, which would create a powerful alliance in the future, if required. There are many species who are aggressive, and because of their parasitic nature, it is important to create strong alliances within our region of space, which we reside. Although we are some distance away, it is only a small jump away due to portals that naturally exist. So we would say it is important for us to be close, as we are close.
Can you give me an example of what types of trade items you're interested in? Like what we have that you might like and what you have that we would like to trade with?
Oh, this is an excellent question and one that I am not best suited to answer. We would say we prize hides. They are very treasured by our people. As we understand, nothing is wasted amongst our people, and everything is used. But there are still those alphas of us who like rare species and collections of such things. We adorn ourselves, especially those of the shamanic lineage, with different pelts of different species. And through these pelts, they represent status and other things of this nature. So pelts would be something that we would be interested in, but I am not the one to ask such a question. Now, what would you be interested in? Humans are very different from us, and we have technologies, we have structures of society, we have plants, and we do have some species of fauna that you do not have, and the plant species as well. So there are many. I can think of one particular fruit which you would be very fortunate to have. It is approximately the size of a soccer ball. It is purple in color. Its flesh is soft yet firm, almost like a plum, but it is more dense than the plum. Now, on the inside, it bursts open almost like a fruit of it is presented on your show Avatar with the blue beings, the Na'vi people. It bursts open and this purple jelly comes out, and it is a very pleasurable experience. We would say that this would be pleasurable for the humans to digest.
Okay. I'm understanding that you're not the best person to maybe ask you the questions about trade, but let me go back to what you had mentioned about pelts. We're having issues on the earth now with trying to preserve our wildlife because we've also been a culture in our history that prizes exotic animals as trophies, as status within the community. We're facing a crisis with trying to preserve certain species that are being decimated due to hunting. So I see, just based on the general statement that you made, that there could be a potential immediate conflict with that on what Earth is trying to do and preserve its resources and its species and its natural species with what types of things you're looking for. Can you respond to that, or can you?
Yes, we will say, as stated before, we are a species of balance. We understand that humans have not yet understood this concept. They will take, or kill in regards to animals, regarding your poachers, your oceans, your fishermen, and virtually all people of your world that are not of a tribal nature. The tribal nature is how humans once were. It is how you are meant to coexist with your system. And with our influence, we would be able to help you in balancing life. Because of your financial system, it has caused many of you to struggle to survive. This struggle has reduced your compassion to that of resources around you, including animals and fish and things of this nature. So we would say that we can give you more than you can understand. And that is because we offer balance with our trade and the understanding of how humans can return to their natural state rather than this artificial zoning that you are having with your large cities, which is unsustainable.
What is it right now that is preventing you from having contact with us? Like, what are your reservations, or are there actual obstacles that are in your way of having contact with humans? And are there certain goals that need to be achieved first?
Well, we would say we are speaking right now. So we are not limited by channeling, but there are limitations of the number of our species are not allowed to enter your atmospheric range. And this is common for species that have not been introduced through galactic collective communities or those guardians who do not allow many species upon your planet. That is, as it is a regulated planet at this time. When the regulation lifts, things will change and allowances will be made. There are species, many of them, who wish to, we would say, there are many species who are interested in many different things and for many different reasons, and they each have their own reasons to be on the planet's surface, from science to plants to animals to politics. Many species wish to be on the surface. We are limited by your advancement in technology, your advancement in consciousness. And what this means is that once you enter the space stage, we would say, of your global collective, we have heard the species behind you, the canine. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, for some reason she's whining. I apologize for the interruption.
We appreciate her gesture. Yes, she is a beautiful being. We would say, to continue our train of thought, that once you enter the space stage of development for your mainstream collective, then you will advance into the next stage of your development as a species. And when this happens, the babysitter cage will be dropped, which will allow you to move further, farther, and faster than before within the regions of space within a respective area before you reach a new restriction. With that regard, this is our answer.
Is it fair to characterize that you're waiting for this galactic federation to establish or normalize relations with the governments on Earth, to establish, contact between the Earth and various alien races? And once that happens, then you feel that you would be in a stronger position, or maybe the gates are open, as you put it, to where then you can come to the Earth and negotiate on your own behalf for things, for this trade that you're talking about.
Once the gates drop, as we stated before, there will be some species allowed in, and they will be highly regulated and filtered, especially initially. But in approximately 100 years' time, those gates will begin to change. It will begin with the most friendly species, with the least desire to, we would say, we don't want to say take, but we would say to engage in commerce with your species. Because that would require that humans take resources from their planet in exchange for the resources of these other individuals or technologies. And we understand the nature of humans is to take from their own people. Now, this is not something that is acceptable in the eyes of the galactic communion, we would say, that is protecting you. So for this reason, species that are very friendly, that do not wish to engage in commerce, would first be present. And as we have our tier system, we would say those would be the first tier of beings. The second tier of beings would be those who are friendly, who wish to trade and exchange organisms and things of this nature with you. And the third tier would be progressively more and more aggressive, eventually allowed upon the planet, until you are not a child anymore or a baby. You would be then a child or perhaps teenager in your development.
From past discussions that I've had with other races, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Earth is in the process of ascension. Humans are ascending. Consciousness is expanding, and this is happening. And there's basically a waiting program happening with the alien races for humans to reach a certain level of consciousness. And a series of things have to happen on the Earth, such as there has to be peace, there has to be more compassion before this contact is going to be allowed. Now, that's my characterization of it, and not exactly, I can't articulate exactly the way it was said to me, but that's kind of just my paraphrasing of it. Would you agree with that, or do you see it differently?
We do see it differently because we would believe that the most important regulation that humans must attain before contact would exist would be the understanding of balance upon your planet. You cannot take from those that are weaker than you only to give it away to someone who does not care about you. This creates for a terrible system of understanding and a leaking of resources, which is not sustainable. Now, we would say because of the tier system that you have of hierarchy based off of greed, we would say not only greed, but also power, it causes those that are the most greasy to rise to the top. And they must be cunning, yes, they must be intelligent somewhat, but they must also be the most aggressive. And as we stated before, those that are the most aggressive for us, we have found that this is not a good trait at the top.
I would agree with that. You mentioned about with the going back to trade, and you have some, plant species that we might be interested in, and you have some things from our planet, such as pelts or, other things having to do with our natural ecosystem. Is there any concern with cross-contamination, like with illnesses, with bacterium, or anything of that sort that we might have that you don't, that can contaminate your planet or vice versa? Has that been taken into account?
Not yet. But there are many scientists who would be much better to answer this question than myself.
Okay, there was just a basic question that I had, because that's one thing that came up was, cross-contamination of species, because obviously you have diseases and germs and things like that that we don't, and therefore we are not immune to, and it could decimate our entire population or a population of a certain, species or wildlife on our planet.
The potential always exists, but we would say that humans have been coexisting with the canine species for some time already, and the canine species actively do have the COVID variant within them, and yet they do not spread it to the humans. So this should be taken into account.
Is there a question that you're hoping I'm going to ask and haven't yet? Like, what is it that you might think I need to know that I haven't already asked?
Well, we think that you have done quite well so far, Ian Hicks. But we believe that there is much more to speak of. Perhaps it is best if we have a communication at another time to keep the length of the communication short and condensed, so that many viewers can stay tuned for our next presentation, where we will get more into depth on particular subjects if you wish.
Okay, and you represent a collective right now, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
And is this a starting point for the conversation or for information or a dialogue to trickle up to the top tier and down from the top tier down to earth? Or is that already happening, and what you and I are discussing is just interaction between two different beings in two different worlds?
Well, there is always something that is required as a foundation before we would say a tree is planted. There must first be soil laid upon the ground, and then a seed must be planted. And then it must have time to nourish and grow in a comfortable situation so that the environment is beneficial to the plant. Now, we would say we are laying down the soil and maybe even planting a seed at this time. And this seed will grow. And as it does, the relations between the lupine and humans will develop, as the tree does. But trees do not grow overnight. It takes time, and it takes energy from the environment and from the tree to allow the tree to grow. And much resources are required at times to develop such trees. So we are in the beginning stages of development of relationship. And this is what our agenda is.
Okay, great. Well, that answers my question. And are you communicating through the channel telepathically, or are you using any technology to communicate with me today?
We are using technology. Lupine are not the best telepaths in comparison to other galactic beings. We are moderately skilled at such a thing. So we require a headset. It looks like something of a scanner. There is an example. We are just searching the channel's memory bank. For Dragon Ball Z, a scanner. It looks something like this.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000!
Yes, we are seeing power levels over 9,000.
I immediately regret this decision.
Something of this nature.
I welcome the opportunity to speak with you in the future at any time. Just let the channel know and we will make an arrangement to do that. Do you happen to know whether or not others are listening to this conversation right now? And does that concern you if they are?
There are others here, yes. We can feel them because they do not like that we just said power level over 9,000, as it was silly and it did not properly represent our species. So we are getting a lashing right now.
And that's coming from your own species?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if there are other alien races who are listening?
There are some Yael here as well.
There are some Yael. Those are the beings who I spoke to before who talked about first contact. And it was interesting because they told me that they had a way of calculating how long it would take for for contact to happen with the Earth and the Yael. And I believe the Yael are being considered, if not already considered, to be the first alien species allowed on the Earth for a number of reasons.
Yes.
But they have algorithms that take into account human behavior. And based on what's happening on the Earth on a day-to-day basis around the world, that these algorithms calculate how long it will be before humans achieve a level of consciousness that will allow contact to happen. And it was, I can't remember what it was. It was not in my lifetime. It was several hundred years from now. Are you aware of that type of technology being used by the Yael? And do you have anything like that yourself that you use?
The Yael are a very advanced species. We would say they are taking a part in almost all communications of a channeled sort at this time. They are in the background as they are granted permission to observe all communications with humans from channeled beings. We are disrupted because we are having a conversation with our people as well as with you at the same time, as what we did was inappropriate and we may very well be penalized for saying such a thing. We apologize.
Are you talking about the 9,000 thing you mentioned?
Yes.
Don't worry about it. At least from my perspective, it's not an issue.
We understand it. We are young and we have a large role to fulfill, and it can be challenging when we wish to act somewhat immaturely or perhaps jest with people, but are not allowed, as this is a serious matter for our people.
Yes, well, when you carry the weight of your entire race on your shoulders as a representative, it can be very dicey or very tricky to walk that tightrope and communicate feeling free without yet upsetting someone within the hierarchy.
Yes, this is very true.
So I don't think I have any more questions at this moment. You obviously can ask me anything you would like if you have any questions for me.
We do have questions, but unfortunately, due to our statement, we must go.
Okay, well, hopefully we can talk again in the near future and you don't get in too much trouble over your statement.
We also hope such a thing. Farewell for now.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are
Blessings.
welcome. We are Yang-Shi. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right.
So how do you feel?
The usual.
The usual. That was a pretty interesting conversation.
I'm very glad. They have wanted to come out for a little while now. It's my understanding. Just for the viewers, I don't know what they said about them physiologically. They're from around 150 to like 170 pounds, and they're like 6 foot.
He said between 6'2" and 6'7".
Okay. So they're within that range, and their weight. So they're always lean. Their colors range from white to an indigo blue color. I heard that there are some black species of wolf as well, even though I don't think they are the same race. So I don't quite know much about that. But anyway.
He also said that a lot of them they're not covered in fur, that they have bald spots or, bald areas.
Okay. And another thing is that they're from Sirius B, and Procyon is their primary star. That's all I have for today. That has been the Lupine, something looking like this, cross between this and maybe Goldar from the Power Rangers, I would say. minus the devilish red eyes. If you guys have any questions regarding the race, let me know. I'll see if I can address them in a later video. And that's all we have for today. Thanks very much for staying until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Ian, so much for asking questions. You've been a great help.
You're welcome. Always love to do it.
And we'll see you next time. See you guys.